All right, cool. So, my name is Moses Sampal. I have Satyan, Shailesh, Giridhar, and Suman with me. So, every Wednesday has now become either a podcast session or a discussion or some kind of dissection based on the weekly topic that we have been following, right? Like marketing, sales, and strategy. So this week we'll be talking about different sales methodologies. Someone will be explaining the high levels of what, why, and how, and then we'll quickly go into uh, the framework behind each of these things, right? Like Satyan will explain the spin one, Shailesh will explain Snap, and I'll be explaining Challenger. So the way to understand better is to apply this into a context, right? So what we are doing is taking one of our products, which is Growth Engine course, and we'll be dissecting it based on the framework. So multiple frameworks looking at the same problem statement. So that way we'll be able to see, which one works better, right? So that's the context for today. All right. So with that, Suman will be taking us through the what, why, and how of sales methodologies now.
Thanks, Moses. So, sales, as we all know, is the bread and butter of every organization. But it's also very important to know who your customer is, identify the needs, and then align your methodology to a process in which you can harness a easy win or maybe with some effort which doesn't go wayward. Having said that, the team at MAC has dissected a couple of methodologies. I'll just run you through at a high level at the various sales methodologies that we have worked on. So we started with something called as spin. So spin selling is a process in which you get to know the heart of the problem and you get to know the real needs of the client. What happens in this case is when you get to know the real needs of the client, you can cooperate with the client with genuine care and authenticity and build a credibility by which your selling process can get shortened. The next in line is snap selling. And in snap selling, it's really to keep it simple, align it to the invaluable requirements of your client, raise the priority so that the client is in sync with you, and finally sell the product. The next in line is a challenger approach. So in a challenger approach it usually bifurcates the sales approach or the salesperson persona into multiple facets. One of the facet is a challenger. Challenger is someone who challenges the convention and he acknowledges the buyer problem, and as such he knows much more or maybe equal to the prospect's job and what is his pain point. And using that knowledge, he builds a rapport, he becomes a trusted advisor, and then challenges their view to the world and ultimately ends up selling his product. The other sales approaches which we have are Sandler. Sandler again thrives on relationship and closing the deal. And then we have inbound selling, selling which comes to you via your word of mouth or via your marketing efforts. And also the gap selling. Gap selling is obviously, as the term indicates, that you put in a way so that you understand what is the current state of your prospect, what is the desired future state, and your product, how it fills in that gap to take it from the current state to the desired future state. So these are the sales methodologies that we have worked on as a team at Mad About Growth. And going forward, we'll be going deeper into the different methods, starting with spin selling. I would like to take it further, and I'd love to have Satyan tell us more about spin selling.
Thank you, Suman. So I'll just try and give a little bit more insight into spin selling. Okay, so spin selling is basically, as Suman told us, it's basically trying to understand the problem. So it's basically broken down into four different parts: situation, problem, implication, and the need payoff. So basically, if we look at this thing, it's basically trying to understand what the major needs are. And so we can start looking at it with each step by step process. So in the first, we need to just see what the situation is, which is basically, if we look at it, it's gathering information. So basically, understanding what the problem is, where the issues are, and trying to just gather information at the first point. Then we go deep dive into the problem, which is the second step, which is to identify the pains, the problem point, the pain points of the customer and the people and whoever it may be, and understand what is the problems and some pains that they are facing, and what would be the, if we move on to the next one, what is the implication of that? So basically, why those needs need to be solved is basically because the pain exists, so obviously there needs to be a solution for it. So that's another way of going one step further. And lastly would be to see that what was the need payoff, so basically leading them to the final solution on that point. So if we go through the entire summary, it's similar to what they do in consultative selling. So basically, it's basically figuring out how um, the clients solve their problem with the use of a consultant or some other external party, trying to understand what problems are. So it's basically just digging deep into it. I'd now like to hand it over to Salish to talk about the Snap.
So I'm going to discuss snap selling, which is one of the strategies that we were discussing about in the higher up of the macro view of all the sales strategies that we were talking. So Snap was developed by Jill Conrath, and it basically talks about the four steps or the four processes, directives, which are to keep it simple, be invaluable, always align, and raise priority. So the fundamentals of these four directives were that in today's world, uh, businesses are moving fast, moving quickly, and you have very less time frame to get their attention and pitch your product or services. So by using these directives, you will be able to create the first impression or the first meeting with your prospective customer, prospective buyer, which will give you enough time at a later stage for you to explain and then go through the whole process. So I'll just quickly go through what those four directives are all about. The first directive is keeping it simple, which basically talks about making things easy and clear for your customer. So as I mentioned, that there is a very little time or very little attention that you get from your prospect. So at this stage, you would rather be more simple rather than being more complex in allowing them to understand your services or products. So you should make your solution look less complex and keep the communication to its point. Being invaluable talks about being trustworthy to your consumer by showcasing your product's value and by coming across as a expertise of that subject. Always align talks about aligning the consumer's goal with your goals, or helping them show that how your products and services help them align to their goals. So while you are aligning, you always keep their beliefs above yours, and you try to make a way of how can you gel both these things together so that it smoothens your entire sales process. Raise priorities is more about talking talking to the client in terms of uh, when the when the purchase or when the product needs to be used, when is the right time. Showcasing them about the importance of your services at the right time is all about raising priorities. uh, Now coming to the aspect of the growth engine course, how I have divided all these four directives are more about what, why, how, and when. I'll take you through that. So when we are talking about the growth engine course, uh, and aligning it with the directive of keeping it simple, people are always busy, so we have to make it easy and make it clear for them, and it should be really clear as to what is it that we are talking about. So when we are talking about the growth engine course, uh, we are mentioning the what part of it. So we're gonna introduce ourselves, or we are gonna introduce the course in a way that we say that we are talking about a program that is designed in a way that it helps students face real market conditions with real clients. This will be the what directive of keeping it simple. Now coming to the why part of it, which is the being invaluable, because you have to differentiate yourself, you have to be a expert, so you will showcase your product value here. Why is it that your product is better than the others, or why is it that your product is worth the person to hear you out in the first place? So here we will be talking about mag as a community of subject matter expertise, or professional learners, or learners who are looking to pursue their careers and hone their skills in sales, marketing, and strategy. We would also talk about the growth engine program being an industry first, where students get to implement what they learn in the classes immediately and take inputs from the market and continually adapt with the market response, and hence learn in the real time. So this will help them understand the why aspect of the program. While talking about always aligning, we talk about how. So how is it that how is your product aligned with their beliefs? So to do that, you have to become a member of their team, you have to show them how can you help. You have to adopt their beliefs and believe in their goals. So one of the goals that the growth engine course fulfills is that that's how we can go about it, is that the current education and learning takes place mostly in classes with minimal attunement with the existing marketing conditions. With Mad About Growth, the students learn from industry experts and professionals. So this will help them perform well in their job interviews during the placement drives. It will help improve their hiring factor. Hence, it will increase the placement numbers for the institution. And adding such courses to their curriculum would also improve their rankings. When talking about raising priorities, here we're talking about when. So we have to concentrate on what matters and prioritize it accordingly. We need to mold the solution into their main problem and pain points. And if they don't need it, they're not going to buy it, right? So let's say, for example, if we are pitching this to an institution in the beginning of a semester, let's say someone who's in MBA or someone who's doing their graduation, they are not likely to opt for it during that time. But if the same thing is approached towards at least like 3-4 months before the placement drives happen, or when they are in the last semester, that is when they'll be most likely to opt for it, because they are getting into a course which will help them become a industry ready professional. By the time they are finished with the course, they'll be ready to apply for their placements, or they'll be aware about what really happens outside in the marketing world. So this is what the dissection for Snap is with regard to the growth engine course, as to all the 4 directives explaining the what, why, and how, what, why, how, and when of Snap selling with regard to the growth engine course. Yeah, that's it. So let's move on to the next strategy, which is the challenger sales.
Okay, great. So the next strategy is challenger. Well, this is one of the tried and tested ones because usually people listen to counterculture, right? So if the entire crowd is going in one direction and then someone says, hey, I have this, and then you grab your attention, right? Because like Shailesh was talking about, everyone is so busy right now, but like your signal has to have so much value for people to look at you if you're starting off from the scratch, right? Uh, right. So challenger sales essentially is one type of personality, basically. That's what it kind of comes down to. So now this comes from this book, The Challenger Sales Methodologies by Matthew Dixon. So 5 classes, of sales professionals are essentially hard workers, relationship builders, lone wolves, problem solvers, and challengers. Okay. So hard workers are essentially, the kind of people who will always WhatsApp you saying, sir, you said you'll take this policy. Have you taken it? If you need any help, good morning, good evening, yada, yada, yada. Right. So they're always self motivated, relentless, basically. And by the way, there's like no preferred one in terms of classification wise, but then when they did the research, challenges came out like way better. So of course, that's why we are talking about challenges, right? Relationship builders are the next level, right? Like this is kind of like what Daniel Pink had said. In car companies, when people go there to buy a car, usually um, earlier before internet, right? Then the computer was in front of the sales guy. People will be sitting on the other side. This guy will always, key in something. He has more information than the customer. But because of the internet and like dissemination of knowledge, now customer has equal information about the product that he or she is gonna buy, or more than the salesperson, right? So what they did in one of these sales sections of a big car company was they turned the monitors, like, initially, let's say I'm the sales guy and the monitor is towards me and the customer is on the other side, right? They change the monitor to be like this so that the customer can also see. So the salesperson is seeing it, customer is also seeing it, then it becomes more like a consultative approach. Like, sir, so what you see is this, this, this. So it became like that. And then they saw their sales increase exponentially, right? Uh, so which is kind of like this relationship building thing also, right? Lone wolves are this hot shots. Think of it like Harvey Specter from Suits. For does whatever he believes in. Very difficult to control, right? But as a a good member of a startup, it could be a good way to balance things out actually. Anyway, so the next one is problem solvers. So this is more like systems integration, putting a solution together for the customer, even addressing the problems that they didn't really know that they had, because problem solving is the second step. The first step is identifying the problem, right? So then comes the challenger approach. Now, the challenger approach is essentially the counterculture approach, right? Which is so the customer, so there's a way in which the current status quo is, and the challenger comes and challenges that, right? Though it's the customer, when you challenge them, they like it because they know that you know your stuff, right? So that's kind of what the other methodologies is also talking about, which is show that you're the subject matter expert, right? And subject matter expert means you are essentially trying to push the boundary, which means you're unhappy with the status quo. So that in itself creates this friction. And friction, so then people have to look up, right? Like, oh, who's this person? So that's what that challenger approach is. And then B2B, essentially, see 54% of high sales performance primarily uses challenger style compared to one of the other 4 styles. So that's insane, right? Yeah, 25% lone wolves, 10% hard workers, 7% problem solvers, 4% relationship builders. This good morning, good evening doesn't, people know that. Why are you saying good morning to a customer? You know that you're going to sell something, right? Clearly it shows. Anyway, so this is the challenger approach. So what we have seen till now is 3 types of things, right? Spin, snap, and challenger. Now, so this is a series of articles that we are writing on Marabout Growth publication, so you guys can check it out. Right. So the next steps is going to be taking one of Mag's products, which is the Growth Engine course, and then try to apply these frameworks to that sales process of that Growth Engine course. Okay. So I'm going to let Suman introduce the course first so that everyone is on the same page. So now we know the product. How do you apply the sales process to that? Okay, oops. Suman?
This is a classic problem in the modern day world where we see unemployment, underemployment, or unemployable as a reply. So let's see this in details. Unemployment is a scenario where there is excess of supply. Supply is more than demand, and you can only cut through this unemployment if you develop and hone your skills. Underemployment is a scenario where the demand might be equal to the supply, but the quality of the demand is very less in comparison to the supply. So you end up having jobs which underpay you or underutilize your skill set. To overcome this, a solution could be develop unique skills which are in demand. The other term which we hear now and then is unemployable, and in fact, the Indian survey, the job scenario survey, everything points that less than 50% of people are unemployable. And unemployability, the demand supply, they are in a close match. However, the quality that is in demand or the quality of your services that is required by the company is much higher than what you can deliver, and as such you might end up in a scenario where you are employed but you become unemployable. So in this case, what happens is you need to develop your in-demand skills. Now, if you see in every aspect of this employment cycle, it is develop skills which stand out. So you really need to develop skills which are in demand in the market, and you can create a unique demand for yourself, for your skills. So what's the solution? Solution, obviously, you can take help from seniors. You can go to the traditional finishing schools. The traditional finishing schools will take some money from you, polish you up, and maybe make you job ready. A third way could be industry internship. Industry internship where you go for internship, and if you are lucky enough, and that's a very low probability, you will end up having a wonderful mentor who will actually show you real life industry problems and you learn from them. Fourth approach, which is where MAC comes in, is a community-based learning. And this is where we have envisaged the MAD about growth. So this actually takes care of all the three above. So you get help from seniors as in people from the industry, people who have been there, seen it, done it. You get the finishing school touches also because you work in real life projects and you can hone your skills. And it is also like an internship. So the life projects that you do are very aligned to the industry. You get to know real life problems, you do real life solution, and a culmination of this becomes the growth engine program. Uh, some details about the program. The program is designed so that you can work alongside real clients in the market itself, and you get to implement what is there, what you are learning in the class, plus what is the requirement of the industry in real time, and you continually adapt with the market response, learn real time. And believe me, what people write as experience on their resume, or what recruiters look as experience on your resume, this is what gets covered end to end right here in this 4-month program. And this program is brought to you by MAD about growth is a community, and here we hone the skills for growth which is a function of sales, marketing, and strategy.
Awesome. Okay, thank you, Suman. That was very nicely put. Now, the structure or the curriculum is what now Giridhar is gonna take us through. It's a 4-month program, right?
That's right, yeah.
Right. The 4-month program, and the breakup of that is what Giridhar is gonna take us through now.
So the way we define it is a function of growth as a function of sales, marketing, and strategy. But essentially, for a growth engine to be set up for any particular company or any particular organization, we are looking at sales, marketing, and strategy working in tandem with each other, collaborating for the company to move forward. And essentially, in today's market, if at all we are looking at professionals who are coming out, they're not, I would say, aligning with what industry is kind of looking for with respect to either technical skills or the marketing skills. So hence we have kind of developed a program called Growth Engine course, and we are pushing it across to the universities. So what are we looking at? The gap between the industry and the colleges right now is that people are not able to relate to what's happening in the industry, and they're not able to associate with the tools or with the respect to the. There's no alignment with the existing market conditions. So hence we have actually designed a program for about 4 months, which either anyone who's looking to hone their skills in sales, marketing, and strategy will be able to take it up, will be able to apply it for the live gigs that are happening. When we say live gigs, we are associating ourselves with the startups and our SMBs, where we take specific problems or we take the company itself and we make our students work with them. So we are currently segregated this as a 45-day plus a 75-day program, which will be happening in 2 sprints. Essentially, we are doing this so that the students get a context of what is happening, or the market understanding and the subject matter expertise is going to be gathered in the first 45 days. And once it is done, it is going to be applied in the following 75 days. So essentially, we'll be looking at the growth engine and then the general overall market scenario, what's happening there. Then we delve deeper into understanding how the company is, kind of placing their products. So we'll be going through their lean canvas, where we speak about the problem, solution, unique selling proposition, and the revenue models and stuff. And also, to follow up with such kind of programs, you do actually need some kind of structures in place, for which we are using Roam Research. Following that, we have the 75 days of implementation, where we take the learnings from the first 45 days and implement it on the company that we have taken up. And every team will be consisting of about five members. Essentially, we'll be having 3 people who will be taking care of the content analytics, curation, and distribution, and 2 of them will be handling course sales, because that is what will bring more life into the company. Then we'll be having 1 mentor who will be working with the students and handholding them at any given point of time. If they are stuck at any given point, any particular structure, they'll be able to take the help from the mentor and go forward. And we'll be having 1 person from the brand itself. Basically, once a student graduates and takes up a role with either a consulting firm or anyone else, they have to work very closely with the client. Or if they're working with their own product, they have to be very closely aligned with the management's visions as well. That is why we are talking about having the client's representative on board as well, so that the students will be aligned with the goal and the vision of the particular company. So how are we doing this? Currently, we are looking at an engagement where the students and the mentor and the client's brand representative will be on stand-ups thrice a week. And as we have the podcasts that are happening on a weekly basis about sales, marketing, and strategy, we'll be having other industry experts also coming and speaking about their experiences with working with different companies. And when the students are having any kind of doubts or any kind of hiccups or bottlenecks, they'll be able to get these doubts clarified and get different perspectives from the industry experts. And then we are speaking about events that will be happening. Essentially, we are not only talking about getting the generic sales, marketing, strategy professionals. We are also talking about industry specific professionals. For example, if at all sports is one of the sports related product is a client that we have picked, we will be looking at getting people in or industry experts who have worked in these domains itself and come and assist in the sales aspect, sales or other aspects as well. Okay, and here's the table of contents. So the first 45 days, as we mentioned, that it's going to be the theory aspect of it. That's understanding the company. We'll be going through, the company structure, products and services. Then we have our buyers personas, where we speak about your different kind of people whom we come across on the clients aspect of it, so that we'll be able to map it to the content that you're generating. And then we go through the buyers personas journeys, buyers journeys. Then we do a detailed competitive analysis, basically understanding who are the other players in the market. And then we go to the keyword research, keyword selection, and content buckets. And then in the execution aspect of it, that is where we get into more detailed ad copies, or the communication that is essentially going out into the market. So that is why we speak about the curation, creation, production, and distribution aspect. And then finally, once the distribution goes out, we collect all the inputs that the market is giving out, and we reapply that again on the existing ad copies or the strategy, and then we refine it according to the goals that has been set by the brand. So what are the tools that we are using? As we mentioned, Roam Research is one of the tools to make sure that all the content and the internal coordination is being done. Canva is used for designs, and Discord plus Zoom is used for communication aspect. And then we have we have the other tools called like BuzzSumo and Google Analytics for measuring and understanding the market response of the content that you're churning out. As a learning material, we do have a Growth Engine Handbook, which has been written by Moses Sampol, who's also there on our podcast right now. And he's also the founder of Mad About Growth. Then we have podcasts that are happening, as we mentioned. And then we have the live sessions. And one more thing that we have is the MAG community access. For 6 months, you'll be able to get the access where this learning doesn't stop once you finish this particular course, but then it's going to be continuing for another 6 months once you have exited the course as well, once you have finished the course as well. And then we also, interestingly, take up academia research papers, which are mostly being published on academia and other portals. This is mostly about the sales, marketing, and strategy. And then we break it down in such a way that it could be applied with the clients or the brands that we are currently working on. That is where this particular aspect becomes way more implementable instead of just remaining in the research papers. A little more about Mad About Growth. So we are a community for sales, marketing, and strategy professionals. Okay.
In a spin perspective. Now, as I mentioned earlier, that spin is basically a situation, problem, implication, and the need payoff. If we look at it from each of these perspectives, this design keeping all of those things in mind. So if we look at the situation now, what the growth engine is assessing is basically based on the scenario which is there, the uh, way the situation is currently in the market, the design to help target that kind of situation. Basically, there is a problem which is being happen. So if we're going to use the spin strategy on the growth Indian course, the growth engine course, it's basically to address certain things. Now, as I mentioned earlier, spin is basically situation, problem, implication, and the need payoff. If we talk about the situation, the current scenario shows that there is a lot of job loss, unemployment, outdated curriculum in schools. What's being taught is not actually what's required in the current scenario. Everything is going digital, and things are required more online more than ever, which is what this major situation is. If we look at what the problem is that we have a labor force and students which are not currently aware of what the skills are. So the growth engine program course actually meets that need. So basically, it provides you with the skills which are required in today's market, which is what which is why all these things which Giridhar has mentioned, the course things, are part of the uh, things which are there. As you said, what and how of the growth engine, the industry research, understanding the company, all of that is required in today's market, and these skills need to be taught by all the need to be taught to the students which are there. If we look at how this helps them, so basically by learning new skills, you upskill yourself into becoming an individual that will help you be more employable in today's marketplace. Because most of the companies nowadays require people who know digital marketing, who knows how to understand product service, who knows buyer personas in the journey. So marketing is the key, because in this scenario, to sell and to understand your customer is vital. And people who have come out from jobs that have don't know these skills, I mean, there's a lot of job losses that have happened in other industries, and students who have been studying outdated curriculums and not understanding the full potential of marketing can actually benefit from this particular course, which is why the course is designed in such a way. So that's why the Growth Indian program has these things about content creation, content production, and everything. So it helps students to be well equipped and upskill themselves into be the future marketers and digital marketers of tomorrow. And obviously, the need payoff is the final point in spin is they become more employable, or they can go out and start their own ventures and actually profit and make money out of it. It's basically a way to give you that pride and power in yourself that I have learned something new and I can use it to make money for myself and for my family. So that's kind of the spin take as far as this course is concerned.
Nice. All right. So the next one is to look at the same growth engine course from a challenger sales personality type perspective, right? Um, so challengers have a unique world of the world. They enjoy challenging their prospects' views and has a strong understanding of the business. Okay. So now if we let's apply the same lens to growth engine course, right? So we all know what's the problem it's trying to solve, which is the gap between the academia, which is education institution, and the market. Now, because the curriculum changes rarely and not rarely, it changes over a longer period of time, right? The cycles are pretty long. So what happens is this, and the world with the current rate at which it's changing, it's very difficult to keep up, right? So if you look at the new education policy that came out in India, like you know that it's going to be outdated in like next 5 years, right? So if that's the problem, so what's a challenger way to look at it, right? So the current education institutions are following the process of, okay, I take a student in, they're going to be with me for 4 years. Think about it. An undergrad is 4 years of time. In that 4 years, I'm going to get monthly or yearly or quarterly fee from the student, and I'm going to teach them something, right? But because academics are so in the bubble, the knowledge that's required in the market and what's being actually taught is very different, right? So the status quo is that you take money and then you are teaching people, which is an outdated content. That's the status quo, right? So the challenger says, why do you have to do that? Why can't you do it as an income sharing agreement with these people, right? But that's like probably too extreme. So what's a midway? A midway could be put your students into our growth engine course. That's all we are trying to say, right? Where we'll take care of the first 45 days, we'll take care of training them in terms of the theory part. And then the next 75 days, we are going to give them live projects, right? If they edit here, like the brand on brand's page, it's going to get edited, right? So the live projects we are going to give them, and like, so that way the feedback loop is very quick, right? And we have process in place to measure and optimize also. So in 4 months' time, these kids are going to now learn essentially how to run a company, right? Because I mean, not from product building standpoint, but if you have something, you know how to sell it, and that's the missing link right now, right? Because if kids are building apps at the age of 9 and 10, so what's differentiating, right? So the product building has become so easy. So solutioning is what a salesperson's job is, and then so if the kids are gonna grow up, and we are gonna be talking to those kind of kids, right? Like we are not gonna be talking to like pure science students who are interested in pursuing a PhD in pure science, right? Like they're not our TG. Our TG is engineering graduates who want to start a company. or BBA students, MBA students. So this is our thing, right? So that's our target audience. Anyway, so in that also, if you look at this, almost 4 lakh MBAs are being produced, and only 20 schools is starting salary more than the fees paid. Think about the situation. Only in 20 schools, the starting salary is more than the fee paid by the student. Which means if I pay 30 lakhs to ISB and I get placed as like 15 lakhs, that's what is happening, right? But then the justification there is, oh, you'll recover it in like 5 years time, 10 years time, and whatnot. Anyway, let's not get into that. All right, and only 19% of the MBAs are technically qualified to take up jobs. So because now tech and other things are coming, even ISB is now thinking about lifelong income sharing agreements with their students, right? And by the time like this goes to a proposal and then comes back, we would have captured the market, ideally speaking, right? Look at this. Some case studies on the airline industries and on Uber. Discussion on airlines revolved around competitive dynamics and commoditization, and Uber was about how the company disrupted private transport. But look what's happening to them right now, right? So, like, no one is ready for this shock, but generally also we are very poor. It's not that this 19% was a survey that was done during this pandemic, right? This was like way before that. So that's the challenger approach, which is the status quo was you taking in money and then like teaching old school shit. And then we come in and say the other extreme is very different, which is income sharing agreements, right? So now you as a college, are you ready to cope up with that, right? Are you going to reinvent yourself by like slowly tipping your toe into the river and seeing whether this is okay for me or not? Either way, you're going to get there, right? So our course is exactly that, right? Then this is kind of what now Suman talked about, right? The unemployment is going up, the market standards not being met, like all these things are pretty fine. But the real contrarian thing is challenging the status quo, which is the current business model in which education works, and it's not working, right? Like it doesn't matter if you pay that much and it's fine, and if you get good graduates out of it, right? And clearly it's not working. If only 19% is tech qualified, what are you even teaching them then? Then it's on the market side to train them. Companies have to then train them for 3 months and 6 months, ITC has 6 months probation period. Right? And so I have to spend 2 years doing an MBA and then go and do 6 months of probation in ITC, learning about their processes and whatnot. Why can't that happen while this person is studying, right? That's what we are trying to do. The 45 day is a proper theoretical understanding of strategy setting, right from understanding the company all the way to arriving at content buckets. And then, okay, now you have the content buckets, go and curate it, go and create it, then produce it, distribute it, measure it, optimize it, right? So that's a challenger approach to selling growth engine course. Okay, so now let's quickly see what we have done today. So we started off with understanding, why sales is important, different methodologies involved at a very high level. And then Satyan took us through SPIN framework, Shailesh took us through SNAP. I talked about the challenger approach. And Giridhar and Suman again took us through growth engine course deck and the PDF. Then we kind of looked at it from SPIN perspective, SNAP perspective, and challenger perspective. Okay, so that's how we have done it.